Welcome back to Corporate Fuckery, stories of survival, psychological warfare, and choosing what's best for you. Before we start, I need to give you a little bit of a disclaimer. This episode includes conversation about suicidal ideation, catastrophic thinking, burnout, and nervous system dysregulation. This is a very serious topic. It's tender, and it's also the kind of truth-telling that can literally save someone's life. So here's the deal. Please make sure you're in a steady place before you listen. I am sharing this because this was a very important part of my journey and something that doesn't get talked about enough. I think you're going to love the context here, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew what you were getting into before we got into it. Today's conversation requires precision, empathy, and the ability to explain what most people feel but can't name, which is exactly why today's guest is here. She's a behavioral scientist and qualitative research expert with more than 15 years of experience studying how people think, decide, cope, and quietly struggle. Through thousands of in-depth interviews and complex mixed method research, she spent her career identifying the emotional and cognitive patterns that shape human behavior, especially the ones hiding beneath high performance. She is also the founder and CEO of a multi-location mental health organization where she's worked extensively in trauma-informed care, addiction, eating disorders, cognitive behavioral therapy, and hypnotherapy, training clinicians and building systems designed to meet people before they reach crisis. What makes her work especially relevant today is her ability to translate complex psychological dynamics into language that creates awareness, not fear, and clarity, not diagnosis. She's here to help us understand how high-achieving women can unknowingly slip into catastrophic thinking loops, why this pattern is more common than we realize, and how early awareness can change the entire trajectory. I'm honored to welcome Ashley Cerda, behavioral scientist, clinical leader, and human-centered truth teller. May I call you Ashley, or would you prefer Dr. Cerda?
Of course, you can call me Ashley. That's fine. I only make people call me doctor if they're being mean to me.
Okay, got it. Good to know. I was thinking about getting ready, and this is like a very tender conversation from my heart. And I was like, wow, I turned the shit and the darkness into light, baby. And the fact that we're having this conversation is proof of that. So thank you for being here with me today and for your time.
Oh, I am so excited to be here. This is a very needed topic.
Thank you. So you were an introduction through one of my followers who's been a follower for years. Big shout out to Madison Imes. And I was like, hey, I'm starting this podcast series for season 3. And I really want to get into the truth telling of how we rewrite some of the rules. And I want to talk about what success actually does to us over time. And as I thought about my own journey and what I had heard from some of my clients in the last year, there's a lot of catastrophizing that goes on around like our perception of failure, our perception of if things don't our control, I guess. I'm going to let you as the expert really dial it in here. But suicidal ideation was the thing that like I was like, we got to talk about this. We got to bring some light to this because I know that more people are struggling with it than they are letting themselves believe or be aware of. And I just want to give people some tools in this conversation, some education in this conversation, so that we can all be on the same page about what it is, how we can start paying attention to it, and how we can ask for support.
Absolutely. So suicidal ideation there's so much stigma that surrounds it. And so it makes it really hard for people to ask questions when they feel that even maybe their brain is going there. And it's not always as black and white as I want to die. I have a plan. This is what's going to happen. Sometimes it is a passive ideation of it would just be easier if I didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
It would be easier for my friends. It would be easier for my family. It would be easier for me. Or even a little bit less than that of just, I feel like I'm out of options, and your brain gives you, this is an option.
Yeah, your brain
Right.
is such an asshole. Like
Oh my
legit.
God. Unreal. So here's the thing. I adore, I love our brain, and I love how amazing it can function.
Mm-hmm.
However, it giving you the out is an unfortunate byproduct of how it functions. It is showing you every single possibility. And especially if you are a very organized thinker, and most women in leadership roles are, it's okay. From down the line, these are all of our possibilities. And if we have run out of options, our brain's like, you're never out of options. There's always this.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you live in a certain level of survival mode, like it really gets you down to two options in my lived experience. It was like, you can do this or you can do this. And it's the rare experience because you're so far down the rabbit hole that it's like, oh, but there's all these other possibilities. And if I were to go back to rage quitting my job in 2019, the one piece of advice that I would give, if I could only say one thing to my past self, I would say, girl, you have more options than you ever could imagine. And I need you to take a beat and figure that out.
Right. So, okay. I always like to use this example, and I know that this is a podcast, and so people won't be able to see me. I'll try to explain it as best as I can without that. If you think of your hand as your brain, we have the wrist into the palm that is going to be the brainstem and your, all of the reptilian functions, right?
Yes.
That keep us alive. And then we have the palm that is your neocortex, that is the thinking, language, day-to-day functioning. We have the limbic system that would be the thumb. If I had two thumbs, one to wrap around the other, it'd be a better example, but you get where I'm going.
Yep.
So the limbic system is more of our relational. And then we have the prefrontal cortex that are our fingers that would wrap around the top if we were making a fist. When we have an event occur that is perceived by our reptilian brain, right, by our very beautiful, beautiful warning system as a threat, the prefrontal cortex, which is in control of perceptions, nuance, right, all of the upper level thinking pops up, and we're only working from the bottom part of the brain.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why your brain struggles so much to find the nuance in the situation and all of the beautiful options that you may have.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, there's only these one of two things, right? Like when we get into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and you feel like you don't have options.
Yeah. So I love that. Thank you for clarifying how the brain works. I wish and I desire for my messaging to be more clear about the brain and its function, because smart women have gotten to where they're at because they're capable and they're highly adaptive. And when they recognize that, when they learn how to apply that same kind of learning and that same kind of curiosity to literally how their unconscious and conscious mind work, the game will be over for them. That is their secret weapon, at least in my lived experience. Now, when we talk about burnout, because you and I teed this up before we started our conversation, give us a little bit about that survival mentality or that survival existence and why we get to that place of the reptilian brain and feeling like we're out of options. Like, what is burnout? And if you have a leveling or something like that, like, how do we give people an idea about what the right terminology here is for them to understand and evaluate where they're at so that they can make different choices?
Right. So burnout itself historically was, I have been doing the same thing too long with little to no reward. Right. And so it was almost a definition of insanity.
I love that.
Right. And then it takes so long once we've been doing the same thing with no reward or not filling ourselves back up to get to where we needed to be to function well. We just called it burnout.
Yeah.
Right. And now we function in a society that, evolutionarily speaking, we are not meant to function in. So the fact that we are as high achieving as we are, to me, constantly blows my mind, because that's not how we are meant to function. And yet here we are.
And yet it's because we're so highly adaptive.
It is. So I spend a lot of time right now, especially with high achieving women, on deconstructing gifted and talented program.
Yes, that was my generation. Yes.
Yes. So, and it's because the anticipation was, I am so quick to learn things. I know how to do all of these things. And it's like we needed a debriefing when we graduated out of it to explain that the rest of society will, in effect, catch up to our level of functioning on most things. We were just faster learners. And then when we get into this extremely fast-paced, very dog eat dog environment that is especially the corporate world, right? You don't ever have a time to relax. I mean, you have constant evaluation, public metrics. You are set up for your nervous system to never be able to relax. And so that's not burnout. That's nervous system deregulation.
Yeah. Which has also become a catch-all term. So I'd like you to break that down a little bit so that people can level set on what nervous system regulation actually is and maybe how it ties back to that brain of yours.
Right. So one of my least favorite things about social media is the misuse of psychological terms. So can most of the society, especially where the world is right now, be nervous system deregulated? Probably, right? But let's be very specific about what it means for you and your nervous system, right? When our cortisol levels jump, when our amygdala believes that we are in a constant state of danger, we cannot perceive the difference from physical danger and social danger. That is just the way our brain is wired, right? Because again, evolutionary speaking, we were a part of a tribe.
Yeah.
So social danger was physical danger.
Yeah.
And we never grew past that. Right. So, but then when we are sparked into not being able to regulate our nervous system, everything is already queued up to be danger.
Yeah.
And so then we get a text message or an email where we can't see the most important parts of language. And we perceive it as I'm drowning. Everything's coming on top of me. Yeah. Right. So then we're not able to actually relax when we lay down. We're not able to, we wake up early in the morning with the panic wake up instead of slowly waking up the way that our body was designed to wake. Right. There are things that point very specifically to a deregulated nervous system. And it is the easiest to see for me when I talk to my clients of what do you do to relax?
Yeah.
If you can't find a truly relaxing thing that you do, your system is not regulated because we should be able to actually chill.
We should be able to chill. And the only times that we actually chill are when we're on vacation. And even that, I would say, is a facade, especially for women who are on 24/8, because it doesn't feel possible. Our nervous system is actually trained by that point to not be able to calm down. So that's why it's so hard to flip the switch into just learning. And I was reading something online the other day, and it said something like, the worst thing that you can say to a high achieving woman is just to go relax, because she's not wired for that. And they're not wrong. Like, I'm like, start with 2 minutes, start with 3 minutes, start with a breathing technique. Like, it really, you have to think about how you got yourself into this place. It wasn't just overnight you flipped a switch and you've learned to live in this survival mode, in this burnout mode, in this nervous system deregulation mode, which, as you just heard, are all different terms that mean different things.
Right.
And so the deconstruction of that then becomes not just a sprint, but a long distance marathon that actually requires you to learn about the signals and cues within your own body that are going to help you understand your own internal landscape in a way that you probably never have before.
Right. So there were lots of studies done in the 80s and 90s where when they asked men versus women to describe themselves, men would describe themselves as, well, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I have all of these achievements. Women would describe themselves extremely relationally. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, right? Like now, when men and women are asked to describe themselves, men still say the same things. Women say everything. They go through the laundry list of all of the things that we are attached.
So you're like, here are all my certifications. Here's my title. Here's my impact. Here's how I mom. Here's how I sister or daughter or whatever it is.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Because we haven't evolutionary changed as fast as society has changed to most households being a dual income household, right?
Yeah.
And yet so much of the labor falls on women. And so we
could have a whole episode on just the labor, because most of my leadership women, most of my executives are like, sis, I need some resourcing here. I can't get healthy dinner on the table. Like, it's real cute. You want me to go sit down for 5 minutes and relax. I'm using air quotes here.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I'm still responsible for making Christmas magical, buying all the gifts, getting the party planned, getting all the laundry done, organizing the housekeeper, like our to-do list versus our male counterparts. And I'm not trying to make this a sexist conversation, but the fact of the matter is, I think just the fact that we have the expression of like, we are everything, it's because we actually also do a lot of things.
We do. We genuinely do. And then when we have made productivity our value, which I could have a whole series on
You should
how
talk about
awful
that.
that is. But when we have made productivity our value and we have made both our home, social, and work life the source of our productivities, if one of them falls into even slight disrepair, our brain goes haywire.
100%. And so it becomes like a perfect storm.
Right.
This is the perfect transition point into deeper into our topic today. So we kind of know how suicidal ideation works kind of at the brain level, at the mechanical level. Tell us a little bit about how this came to be in your professional opinion, where you see your clients. I've had a few clients share vulnerably with me that they've struggled with this. And what kind of signals this? Because if we get ourselves into the perfect storm of this becomes a conversation for us, what's actually going on in the landscape of our lives that is bringing this up?
Right. So first I want to say mental health is part of health across the board.
Yep.
As such, just like physiological health, it fluctuates, right? When we are taking better care of ourselves, our mental health is better. When we are struggling because everybody else is a priority above us, our mental health suffers. Suicidality does not care whether or not you are a high achiever, whether or not you are a higher socioeconomic. It doesn't differentiate. Everyone is vulnerable to it. And I think that is a thing that in the past has not been well educated to the masses.
100%.
And so that's one of the reasons why it becomes such a hard thing for people to discuss.
Yeah. How is it different from like actual, like the act of suicide? And this is where like I knew when I was having these thoughts and they felt really dark. I talked about this, I think, in season 1, maybe episode 2 or 3 of I was having really dark thoughts. That's what I was pointing to. And it feels scary. It really does feel scary in your body. And yet in my lived experience, I kind of knew I wasn't going to be taking action on it. I just knew that I was feeling it. So can you help us from a professional perspective unpack that a little bit? Because it does feel really fucked up.
Because it is fucked up. I mean, like, let's just be so for real, right? Because in theory, we're never supposed to feel that way.
Yeah.
Right. And okay, I hear all of the time, I'll say, so one of my number one questions is, how's your world? And I can tell a lot with just the answer to that question at the beginning of every session, right? And when people say, well, I can't tell you, because they're afraid that if they say, I'm having suicidal ideations, I'm going to immediately hospitalize them. There's a large difference between passive ideations and an active suicidal ideation with plan.
Yeah.
Right. And they are treated very, very different. And so a lot of people were like, well, I can't get hospitalized. That'll make everything worse. And so they won't even say anything because they don't want to bring it to the table. So a passive suicide ideation is more of, again, I just can't feel this way anymore. I don't know what to do. I've run out of options.
Yeah.
And it can start showing up before the thought happens. There are things to look for.
Yeah.
Right. And so the sleep disruption that I was talking about, the waking up in a panic where we know that we are dysregulated, the constant replay of mistakes.
Yeah. Say it louder for people in the back, Ashley.
Right. The constant replay of mistakes. Now, everyone across the board will be like, that was dumb.
Yeah.
We have to do better.
What was I thinking?
Yeah. That's a normal neurological response to
Yeah.
be like, that was dumb. I can't do that again. That's intended to stop you from making the same mistake over and over again, right? When you are constantly replaying the same mistake, waking up at 2 a.m., remembering a thing you said in a meeting, that is a warning sign that your brain is not functioning well, right? When we are emotionally shutting down, or the other side of that spectrum is becoming very irritable and everybody's annoying and my kids are annoying and my husband's annoying and my friends are just talking about stuff I don't care about. And right, like when we have detached to that level that our favorite people on the planet annoy the crap out of us, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Huge warning sign. And again, these things will come before normally the ideation start, right?
Okay.
Another one, shame-based self-talk.
That makes me almost want to cry. Sorry. It's just like, I could bawl.
Right.
Thinking of old me and how shameful I felt, like, and it wasn't even fucking I'm mad that I felt as much shame, but I also am sad. But we all know that anger is the mask to sadness. And if you didn't, you do now. So it's why they go hand in hand.
So what I find interesting about shame is it doesn't show up as a biological emotion. It has to be taught. Guilt. Guilt is a biological emotion. Guilt is I have done a bad thing. I need to make it right. Biological emotion, we're born with it. Shame is I have done a bad thing. I'm a bad person. That is taught.
I want to go back to the GATE program that you were talking about earlier. Let's put a pin in that because I bet there's a connection between being in the GATE program and being perceived as a pattern person. And I didn't make it into GATE, I'll have you know. And I know exactly why. I have a lot of thoughts about my education because that was like 6th grade when 6th, 7th, 8th. Is that about when GATE?
Well, I started in 2nd.
Okay. 2nd. I was so traumatized by what was going on in my family at that time that even though I am capable,
right,
the way that it showed up in my education, I had learning challenges and I didn't even recognize that until I was an adult. And it actually wasn't until it's a joke at our house and has been for a really long time. Sorry, we're going down a rabbit hole for sidebar. Reading was really hard for me, like context, and I always tell my husband I don't read directions because my dad always said he never read directions. He would just figure it out logically. He would just tinker with it until he made it work. So I adopted that same mentality. By the time I made it to 7th grade English class, I wasn't interested in learning reading and learning to find enjoyment in reading. And what that did is it created a barrier for me because it was highly problematic when I went to then apply context to things and demonstrate aptitude. And I shared that with my husband. I said 7th grade was when this all started coming out and I was getting really bad grades. And I just reflect on how traumatized I was at home and the fact that it was impacting my learning and nobody was talking about it. And then conversely, you think about all the high achievers who are now being placed in this upper perceived echelon of learners, but it actually is a slippery slope. So walk us through it. I'm bringing us back.
Right. So for example, I was in Gifted and Talented. I'm dyslexic. I didn't realize this until I was a full-on adult and was like, that's not the way a brain is supposed to work.
Yep.
And so I was able to mask for years and years and years. And then I would make minor mistakes on things and get Ashley, you're better than that. You're in Gifted and Talented.
So cute.
Right. Or when the big joke in our family, my son, when he was in high school, was needing help with math. Nope, not me. That is not me. And his teacher said, your mother has a PhD, ask her. And he went, it's not in math. And I love that was his response because thank you, my child, for standing up for me of no, I can't help you. Just because we are good at some things, fast learners at some things, set apart from a young age at some things, doesn't mean we will not have struggles. And when you set a child up to think that they are not supposed to have struggles and then teach them shame about it when they do, you've created a perfect storm for someone to get into the adult world and fall apart.
Amen. Amen. I know there's somebody who just started crying that's listening to this right now because they're like, oh my God, I feel seen for maybe the
Because it
first time in my
resonates.
whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
So deeply resonates.
Mm.
And what I love about this, and so here is y'all's hope that I will leave with you, well, one of the things of hope I will leave with you. Because shame is taught, it can be unlearned.
Mm-hmm. A
Does
lot of the
not
work
have
that
to
I can do
be.
at the subconscious level too. And that's what I love about it is these emotions are latent, they're transient, but emotions are energy in motion, and it is not a permanent mark on your person, your identity. It can
They
be
all
something.
serve a purpose
Yeah.
as they pass through. It's
Mhm.
what we do with them that makes us who we are.
Yeah. So tell us how it connects back to our brain, though, because I actually haven't talked a lot about this on the pod. And it was one of the things that I think is really helpful when you understand what that emotion is actually signaling, that energy in motion. Like it comes from connection to the brain. Lay it out for us so that we know.
So, for example, anger is one of my favorite emotions, and everybody laughs at me for this. Then it's probably because I'm dark and twisty and very raw. So,
Are you a Scorpio? I feel like
I'm
you
not.
have. Okay.
I'm
What
not.
are.
I'm an Aquarius.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that kind of tracks too, though, because
right.
it's the fake water sign and like a little bit
Creative.
rebellious,
Yes.
freedom,
All of the
liberation, all
things.
that jazz. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries. So, anger is a positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
Its intention is to create immediate change. So, when we are mad about something, if we change the way we are looking at it, you can
Mm-hmm.
change your world. When
I'm
our
going to
brain,
cry. I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry. Like, I grew up with a dad who was like the angriest human you've ever met in your whole life. And if he had heard that in his living years and was open and curious to figuring out what that meant for him, my
right,
relationship with him would have been different.
the way that we interact with the world can change if we realize what emotions are supposed to do.
Yeah. And we're never taught that. That should be in second grade. Fuck the GATE program. We should be learning about emotions and energy and motion and how it connects to your brain and what signal it's telling you about the thought, even at the conscious level or the subconscious level. Like, this is where people are like, they're wondering why they keep getting stuck in the same pattern. And it's like, well, the system is working as designed, folks.
It it is, in fact. It is. So, sadness, for example,
Mhm.
there is beautiful healing in sadness. The
Yeah.
way, and so, like, not a plug to
No,
Pixar or
plug
anything.
yourself, girl. Plug
Oh,
it.
not me.
Okay.
The way that Pixar handled sadness in Inside Out was one of the most beautiful representations because it's supposed to work with your other emotions to be healing. That's its job. That's its neurobiological job.
Mhm. Yeah,
And yet we are so afraid to sit in sadness.
we are.
We're so afraid to be confused. That is one of the most triggering areas for most of my high achievers is being confused. And if we can get slightly comfortable sitting in confusion, that's where the answers are.
100%. And that's what a lot of the work that I have learned and been certified in over the last few years. My mentor talks about it as like a popcorn kernel getting ready to pop. It's like if you can endure the pressure of the confusion and the discomfort of learning that you're going through and recognize it as something is working instead of something is trying to take you down, you're going to set yourself free on the other side. But you have to get to the other side and be open to learning about the thing instead of just trying to be like, why aren't you smart enough? But again, it goes back to that same signal and the
Mhm.
same pattern of, hey, GATE program, highly capable person, keep it together.
Right. So my goal for all of my clients is for them to recognize in their own way, my version of this is I am a badass,
Uh-huh.
right? When we can recognize that I am exceptionally good at what I do.
Mhm.
I am a badass at what I do. I'm an exceptional therapist. I'm a lovely researcher. I do such good work. I'm never going to be amazing at math. I'm never going to be right. That doesn't make me any less good at
Right.
what I do. I'm going to lean into my strengths
Right. And when
and
you
be
do that, you actually liberate yourself.
you do, and you succeed.
Mhm.
And the more that you allow yourself to be exactly who you are supposed to be, this is a sidebar. The more that you allow yourself to be exactly who you're supposed to be, it is a beacon to those around you, and your people will find you.
Amen. That's why
It
we're here
happens,
today, honestly.
right?
Mhm.
It happens so easily when you are well regulated and you are being who you are supposed to be.
Mhm.
In order to regulate, in order to really have your nervous system working the way that it's supposed to, you have to show yourself that you are safe.
Yes. Say that needs to be said again. So what is safety? I didn't recognize. So apologies. We're going to sidebar again because this is there are really important themes here that
Mhm.
people who are like, why can't I figure this out in life? Why doesn't my therapy work the way that I want? Why doesn't working out? Why doesn't achieving the goals? Like they're sitting there going like, I'm trying all these things. I'm pouring myself into all these buckets and I still don't feel like I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Tell us why safety is the core principle at regulation and having more of what we actually want. Because I
Because
believe that's what I just heard you say. Am I correct?
100%, that's what I just said,
Okay.
right? So without safety, your foundation is going to crumble because that is neurobiologically required.
Mhm.
It's one of the reasons why. So if we go back to my hand brain,
Mhm.
right? It's one of the reasons why I start down here at the very reptilian function.
Yep.
We start here because it's where we started.
Yep.
And without that, without the safety, without our fight, flight, freeze, fawn being put into safe mode, we don't do anything else. We just keep going back to something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong.
Yeah. Because it feels wrong. Because our
Right.
whole body is saying it's wrong,
Right.
which is why
So,
we end up having a binary conversation of I either blow this shit up or I keep enduring this and stay addicted to this cycle.
right.
All right. I have a couple more things that I loved that we brought that full circle. There's nothing better than a full circle moment. So we talked a little bit about the stigma of
Mhm.
suicidal ideation and the fact that I think we could agree in this conversation. And if you are having any sort of suicidal ideation that is involving a plan, I will put the suicide prevention number down below because
Yes, please. 988.
we
You,
all need that.
yes.
988. Thank you, Ashley. Um, but let's just take it back to the level of we're ideating because we're catastrophizing.
Right.
Something has signaled, we're finding itself in a loop or a pattern, because I would imagine that you would agree that there's some sort of trigger and there's probably some sort of cycle here and it's happening at some sort of frequency that doesn't
Right.
feel great. So let's talk about what it takes to actually share with someone that this is going on. Because my therapist knew, my husband knew, a couple people in my family knew, but then that, in some cases, even though those people feel safe, they don't understand it. So
Right.
then it becomes a much larger conversation and a misunderstood conversation. And that turns into a whole nother can of worms. So I would love for you to share with our listeners, okay, we're having this, we're recognizing it. Great, check. Awareness is 50% of solving most things, in my
Right.
opinion. What
Right.
do we do next?
So we have to find someone who understands you.
Mhm.
Right. And so whomever your person is, and so you mentioned Madison earlier, Maddie would be my person.
Mhm.
Right. She would be one of the ones that I would be like, my brain is being mean. And
Asshole.
we need to talk,
Asshole.
right. We need to
Yeah.
talk about this. And sitting there and just laying it out of let me vent it out first.
Yeah.
Right. Did you know that there are different chemicals that are released in the brain when we think something versus when we speak it?
I did not know that, but educate us because I love how the brain works
So,
and
oh
all
gosh,
the
don't
chemicals
make
that come
me
with it.
recite all of the different chemicals because that I don't have that written down. I don't remember the names off the top of my head. But we have done so many studies where there are different chemicals that are released from thinking, different parts of the brain lighting up in thinking versus when we speak.
Yeah.
Right. And when we speak, there are more of the calming chemicals that are released. One of the reasons why therapy works, one of the many reasons, there are many, many reasons, but one of the reasons why therapy works is actually saying the thing out loud makes it less scary because your brain actually rewards you with things like dopamine
Yeah.
for saying the hard thing out loud.
Yeah. It's so hard for a high achiever to say a really hard thing out loud. Took me a year to say something really fucking difficult to my husband after 18 years of marriage. Let's just say that. A
Right.
year to build that. Like, you're not alone for not being able to not say the hard thing. Just, I want to put that out there.
I have had clients that I will know because one, I've been doing this, it'll be 20 years in May that I've been doing this. And
Congratulations.
so I will know that they're having those thoughts, but it's been 4 or 5 sessions.
Yeah.
And they haven't said it yet.
Yeah.
Because they're not ready.
Yeah.
They're building up, they're getting there. And I trust that It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's recognizing that having the thought doesn't mean I'm broken. One,
Mhm.
that is, let me say it again. Having the thought does not mean that your brain is broken.
Yeah. Or that
Mental
you've
health.
done anything wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Mental health
There's
fluctuates.
nothing wrong here. Hmm.
It's actually a sign that your brain is working, unfortunately.
As designed.
Right. It's working
Mhm.
as designed because it is giving you every single option it can think of when you feel backed into a corner.
Yeah. And
Right.
that's the biggest, best option. That feels like the biggest, best option, which is actually a cry for help.
Right.
Actually saying, I need support. And while you've done everything, because everybody's like, let's go to yoga class or let's meditate I'm like, girl, that's cute. But like, that ain't going to do shit
Yeah.
when
That's
you're like on the verge of, wouldn't the world be better without me? Or even, couldn't I just take a 2-week vacation and disappear and come back and try and reintegrate into this with a whole new perspective? It's like, no, because that's not actually how your brain works. I'm sorry to tell you.
right.
Hmm.
So when we feel it, we got to say it. We got to get it out loud off of our chest because it breaks the cycle in your head in a very different way. That doesn't mean that you won't ever think it again because you've said it out loud, but it starts the ability to heal. It starts the ability to change it.
Yeah.
Right. So when my anxiety is speaking to me in a negative way about myself now, 99.9% of the time, I'll just be like, rude, brain, and then
Yeah.
on about my day because I know that's not true.
Yeah.
But if I'm in the depths and
Yeah.
I'm unregulated and everything's on top of me and I feel like a failure and I can't see other options, that 0 or 0.01% starts flaring. And that's when I got to start talking to somebody. I've got to get it off of
Yeah.
and say the whole thing.
Yeah.
Don't just say, I'm thinking about killing myself or I'm thinking about ending it. Say the whole thing. Everything has been so overwhelming. I don't know what to do. This is where, right? Like, I can't find any other options. Get it all out, like word vomit it out off of.
Yeah. Well, because that actually also helps the practitioner or person that is supporting you really understand, because your brain is processing it. The narrative, the words that are being used are important for practitioners to understand, to be able to clearly support the model of the world that you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. The words, I love words. Words are my favorite. And then follow-up questions are my second favorite. But like the more information that you can give me, the better I am going to be able to help you reframe what your brain is saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've told me all of your options in that vent without realizing that you did. So then I can turn around and show you where your options actually lie because you knew, but your brain was being rude and wasn't allowing you to see it.
And I would say that not everybody is as beautiful as a mirror that you are to likely your client. So it's really important to find a trusted resource or practitioner that can support you. Because if you don't have that, then you're in the double bind of the life
Agreed.
here. Yeah.
Agreed. So I tell every single one of my clients on their first session, I believe in therapy 100% with my whole soul.
Same.
However, if you don't like your therapist, I can't help you. I can be the best in the world at what I do. But if you don't like my personality, maybe I'm not for you.
Yeah.
So let me give you a referral to somebody else. I am in therapy, as every practitioner I believe should be. I don't think you should go to a therapist who doesn't go to therapy. It's like going to a personal trainer that doesn't work out.
It's so true.
It just doesn't make
And
sense.
also, like, I'm fatigued with therapy. Like, my therapy is going from, down. We're just turning the dial down because I'm getting into a different realm of life. But I completely appreciate your perspective. It's so true.
You don't have to be in it every week, right? Like, but
Yeah.
you need to be in maintenance therapy at
Yep.
least, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I had to find one, right, that I would go through and look at all of your great, beautiful, wonderful achievements and everything. But I had to see you in person and talk to you because I found one, she was amazing in what she does. I've recommended her to people literally all the time. She was too bubbly for me. I need
Doesn't
somebody.
feel real enough when you're too bubbly. Doesn't
I
feel
need
like
somebody a
something's
little dark
happening.
and twisty, right?
Yeah.
Like I needed someone who was a little dark and twisty. And when I found her, it was perfect. It was perfect. So I can tell her anything because it matches.
Yeah.
If
And
you
that's
don't,
the safety, though. Like,
right,
that's the
if you don't
safety.
feel safe with
Mhm.
your therapist, find a different therapist. It's not therapy doesn't work for you. That therapist is not your person. It's not even their fault necessarily. It's just you have to find one just as you would in any other relationship, somebody that clicks with you. because
Yeah.
it's a professional relationship, but it's a very intimate professional relationship.
100%. And looking back, because safety has been such a big theme for me the last couple of years, and just creating my own personal safety, safety within my marriage, safety within my relationships. Looking back, like my therapist, when I started this journey, she was it that she did create the safety to have these really hard conversations.
Right.
And I would say good therapists can be found in any realm, but there are also a lot of bad therapists out there. And
Unfortunately.
you have to spend the time to find someone that is really going to serve who you are. I feel like there's one. Okay, let's frame up the new year, new rule theme here then, Ashley,
Right.
because we're going into 2026. We're 3 weeks in almost now. How are we reframing this ideation for our high achieving powerhouse women that literally could move heaven and earth? Because evolutionarily, our bodies, our minds have figured out how to survive the corporate structure. And when I say survive, I literally mean are in survival of it. What are we reframing for them, and how are we giving them some nugget to walk away with in this episode?
So you don't need a new world.
Mhm,
You need a nervous system that feels safe within the one you're in.
mhm,
Okay. Starting to regulate and figure out that corporate systems are rewarding the imbalance in our nervous system. They're literally set up that way.
Yep.
Because they are attempting to make you work harder. And what they're doing is creating anxiety that's not necessary.
Yep.
Right. So we're not allowed to mindset our way out of biology. You actually have to deal with the biology.
So true. That's why the chemicals matter. That's why the thoughts matter. That's why the reptilian
Right.
brain matters. It all matters.
Right.
Yeah.
So we learn how to be a human,
Mhm,
recognize that our brain is functioning properly,
mhm.
but we have to change the way that we are dealing with our mental health to build it back up.
Yeah.
We learn how to regulate. There are somatic exercises. You can find them all over YouTube. They're beautiful. They're wonderful. They're a great place to start. Breathing exercises are great. I love teaching people just to flex your toes in
Mhm.
your shoes and then release a couple of times just to get to this is me, this is my body, this is where I am.
Or
Right?
even a body scan is super helpful too. Close your eyes, take a breath, 90 seconds or less, 60 seconds or less. Like you can be back in your body instead of on autopilot outside your body, somewhere
Right.
dealing with some meeting or some emergency that is not probably curing cancer or doing a heart transplant kind of
Right.
surgery.
And then I also tell my high achievers, be a potato at least a little while each week.
Mhm.
Right? I have to have a whole day. I know that about me. My potato days are functional. They are productive because it resets me.
Mhm.
Right? It's not being lazy. It's not being unproductive. It's extremely productive
Yeah.
because it's helping you reset.
Yeah.
Right? Find ways to allow yourself to genuinely relax, to genuinely give yourself permission to shut down and do nothing or the thing you've been putting off that you actually really want to do.
Mhm. Yeah, what comes to mind for me is what's the next, because they want a checklist, right?
Right.
Just tell me what to do. It's back to the GATE program. Like you tell me what you need and I will find the pattern and I will do the checklist. Like, and they want the answer. And I love that about them because that's how they've adapted into the systems that have
Right.
gotten them this level of success. And that is not the thing that is going to unpack all of this shit because none of this is linear.
Very, very true. Okay. So the first step and the most important one is safety.
Mhm.
If you can convince your brain, and you can only do it if it's true, by the way,
Yep.
you can convince your brain that you are safe, you are 90% there.
Yep.
Right. And I teach people to start with in this moment, in this room, why am I safe?
Mhm. Oh, I love that instead of looking for why I'm not safe. Yeah,
Right.
that feels very
Right.
expansive. Love
Show
that.
yourself exactly why you are taken care of in this moment. You are
Mhm.
safe in this moment. And so
Mhm.
for me right now, easy way to do it. I am in the safe place. One, I'm in my office that I adore and I'm alone. So nothing can harm me there.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
I'm speaking to someone that I am vibing with and I feel good with. I am allowed to be calm in this moment.
Yep. It's a
Easy as that.
beautiful evidence procedure and checklist of sorts for
So
all of
start
you. I'll
with
stick that down in the notes so you can have a checklist to go check off. Am I safe? Flex my toes, do a body scan. The last thing that kind of comes up to mind here, and I think it really ties to our survival mechanism and that reptilian brain, it might put a beautiful bow on the idea of safety, the idea of ideation, is I believe at the crux of this conversation is really the idea of the cost of capitalism to us as women, and the fact that money is truly the thing that is driving the pressure that we're trying to play whack-a-mole with every single day. So when we think about safety around money and that, and if your perspective is different, I would love for you to share it. But I just saw like I had found this level of success, and that goes back to the identity of I make X number of dollars or I do Y number of things. And then it just feels like a house of cards, so nothing feels safe. So how do we bring it all together so that we can make a decision for us that allows us to choose safety?
So what I love about a brain that got you to the place that you are in high achieving position is that brain is highly adaptable and capable of making change.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean change is not hard. It is.
It is. It
It
is.
is.
You're signing up for a trek. Yeah.
Right? They're a change management specialist for a reason, right? Like change is hard. So recognizing that you have the innate ability to create beautiful change in your world because of how adaptable you are.
Yeah.
So even if you find a job that's a lower pay, you will be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Other than finances, if you are looking at your life, I want you to ask yourself, beginning with these two questions. If I am living my ideal life, what does it look like? And if I am living my ideal life, what does my routine look like? Routine is more important than money, right? And now, again, capitalistic society, I recognize that we have to have it. However, our routine is what actually helps set up our physical and mental health.
Amen. This conversation has been so enlightening, so helpful. And my hope is that anyone listening here today is like, wow, I saw myself, I see options, I see perspective, I see my adaptability. I see that change is possible for me. I see that this is an unhelpful loop that I found myself in. And I know that I can find and have differently for myself.
If you resonate with this, you are not alone. It is very, very common and beautifully enough, very fixable.
Beautifully enough, very fixable. Amen. All right. Dr. Ashley Cerda, so nice to meet you. Thank you for all your time today. I really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Of course. All right, deep breath. I personally love this episode, but I know it might feel a little deep, a little raw. You might walk away needing some processing time. And I totally get it. Because this new year, new rules theme isn't about becoming the shinier version of you. It's about stopping the silent self-erasure that gets rewarded as high performance. Here's the rule we're rewriting. You don't need a new life. You need a nervous system that feels safe inside the one that you're living. Because corporate systems and honestly, modern life tend to reward dysregulation. They normalize the panic. They romanticize the grind. And then act shocked when your brain starts searching for an exit ramp. I'm going to drop some key takeaways from this episode down in the notes section below. Go check them out. And my final note from me to you today is, if this episode hit a nerve, I just want to let you know you're not alone. And you're not failing, you're noticing. And that awareness is the beginning of having more options. That's where your power lies. All right, that's a wrap for today. New year, new rules equals less performance, more safety, and more truth. I'll see you next week.